We're happy to have you with us on this Tuesday. We begin this morning with the January 6 hearings and the new testimony from Trump's inner circle that focused on the night of the 2020 election and laid out the steps they say were taken to begin the disinformation campaign now known as the Big Lie.
The House committee pulled back the curtain on what was happening inside the White House that night, giving the public its clearest look yet at how Trump and some of his allies began crafting their falsehoods that the election was stolen from them and hammering home a single message. Donald Trump lost the 2020 election, and he knew it. We have team coverage this morning, but first a look at some of the major moments from day two.
As someone who's run for office a few times, I can tell you at the end of a campaign, it all comes down to the numbers. The numbers tell you the winner and the loser. For the most part, the numbers don't lie. But if something doesn't add up with the numbers, you go to court to get resolution. And that's the end of the line.
Rather than accept the results of the election and the decisions of the courts, Mr. Trump pursued a different strategy. He tried to convince the American people the election had been stolen.
The Fox News Decision Desk is calling Arizona for Joe Biden. That is a big get for the Biden campaign.
Arizona's called. Do you remember that?
I do.
What do you remember happening where you were when Arizona was called?
There was surprise at the call.
Who was surprised?
Most everyone in the room.
Were you being one of them?
Yes.
Did that shift the atmosphere, the attitude in the White House?
Completely. Were you part of any discussions with the people I mentioned, Mr. Steffi and Mr. Meadows, or anyone else, about whether the president should make any sort of speech on election night?
I spoke to the president. They may have been present, but President spoke to the president several times that night.
Was there anyone in that conversation who, in your observation, had too much to drink?
Like Mayor Giuliani. There were suggestions by, I believe it was Mayor Giuliani, to go and declare victory and say that we'd won it outright.
It was far too early to be making any calls like that.
And did anybody who was a part of that conversation disagree with your message?
Yes.
Who was that?
The president disagreed with that. I don't recall the particular words. He thought I was wrong. He told me so. And, that they were going to, go he was going to go in a different direction.
This is a fraud on the American public. This is an embarrassment to our country. We were getting ready to win this election. Frankly, we did win this election.
As of November 7th, in your judgment, what were the chances of President Trump winning the election?
None. He needed 3 of these states to change. And in order to do that, I mean, you're better off to play the Powerball than to have that come in.
I told him that the stuff that his people were shoveling out to the public was that the claims of fraud were. I was somewhat demoralized because I thought, boy, if he really believes this stuff, he has, lost contact with he's become detached from reality.
For more on what we heard on day two, let's bring in NBC News Capitol Hill correspondent Ali Vitale. So, Ali, the committee wanted to emphasize the apparent division within Trump's inner circle over how to handle the election results as they actually rolled in that night. So take us through that divide, including what was dubbed Team Normal by the former president's campaign manager, which included the allies who tried to convince Trump not to declare victory on election night.
Which, you heard it there, Joe. It sounds like almost everyone in the former president's orbit on election night was telling him it was too early to declare victory, in part because places like Fox News were calling Arizona for him, but also because they knew the way that he had strategized, he being the former president, against vote by mail, which typically is a very good way of voting for Republicans. In places like Florida especially, it very much benefits Republican voters. Instead, the former president took a hard tone against that. That was all all part of the strategy that the committee laid out. All of it seeking to show that the former president knew that he had probably not won the election on election night, went out there and declared victory anyway at the urging of an allegedly drunk Rudy Giuliani, while other members of his orbit said that's not the way that they would go about it. Bill Stepien and his own son-in-law Jared Kushner were among those. Listen.
I didn't mind being categorized. There were two groups of, we called them kind of my team and Rudy's team. I didn't mind being characterized as being part of Team Normal, as reporters, kind of started to do around that point in time.
Did you ever share, Mr. Kushner, your view of Mr. Giuliani? Did you ever share your perspective about him with the president?
I guess, yes.
Tell me what you said.
Basically, not the approach I would take if I was you.
Nevertheless, Joe, of course, we know that that's very much the approach that President Trump did take. And that's, of course, what the committee was pointing out yesterday in 2 hours of hearings.
And Allie, we're 2 hearings in now. The committee's made it clear that the former Attorney General, Bill Barr, is a key figure in its case against the former president. What else did we hear from Barr yesterday?
Yeah, look, a lot of the stunning testimony was from members of Trump's own inner circle, top officials in his administration, including former Attorney General Bill Barr, who detailed the degrading circumstances around the continually deteriorating circumstances around the way that the White House asked him to repeatedly go after whack-a-mole conspiracy claims. That's what he likened it to. And he said the Department of Justice and other entities would look into these claims of Dominion voting machines, as well as the former president's claims that suitcases were being wheeled in of ballots, a myriad of conspiracy theories that they all were able to debunk, both within the campaign apparatus and within the Department of Justice. You watch, as Barr says at one point, that if the former president was to believe this stuff, he'd become detached from reality. That was just one of the stunning moments. I'll play it for you now.
I was somewhat demoralized because I thought, boy, if he really believes this stuff, he has, lost contact with he's become detached from reality. On the other hand, when I went into this and would, tell him how crazy some of these allegations were, there was never an indication of interest in what the actual facts were. My opinion then and my opinion now is that the election was not stolen by fraud. And I haven't seen anything since the election that changes my mind on that.
And look, Joe, you hear the former Attorney General laying out sort of the best and worst case scenario there. The worst case scenario being that the former president in the waning months of his administration was detached from reality, latching onto conspiracy theories. And then the best case scenario is that he was defrauding the American public, despite the fact that top officials in his orbit were telling him that there was no way that he had won the election and that certainly it hadn't been stolen by fraud. The other piece of this that I would just point out quickly is one of the things that came up. It didn't get the full tenor of the minutes of the hearing, but it's something that we're going to hear more about. This idea that it wasn't just the big lie, but it was the big ripoff. The way that the Trump campaign and the former president recruited donors to give money to the causes of defending the election results, looking into the legal claims that they were trying to prosecute in various states across the country. That's going to be something that's really important here, especially as we know the Department of Justice is listening to this, and it looks like that could be one of the ways that they look into it. Of course, there's disagreement among the committee's ranks, it seems, over whether or not they want to send a criminal referral, but nevertheless, that's one of the threads that's really important here that came from yesterday.
All right, Ali Vitale, thank you.
Now, while the committee chair said they will not be making any criminal referrals to the Department of Justice, Attorney General Merrick Garland said he is paying close attention to the hearings.
am watching, and I will be watching all the hearings. I can assure you that the January 6th prosecutors are watching all the hearings as well. We are proceeding with full urgency with respect, as I've said many times before, to hold all perpetrators who are criminally responsible for January 6th accountable, regardless of their level, their position, and regardless of whether they were present at the events of January 6th.
Let's bring in Caroline Polisi now for more on the January 6th committee hearings. Caroline is a federal criminal defense attorney and adjunct lecturer in law at Columbia University. It's always great to have you with us. Good morning. So what do you make of those comments from the Attorney General? Could we see an indictment handed down to the former president? What do you take away from that?
Well, Savannah, as we all know, the January 6th committee is not a prosecutorial body. Obviously, their mandate is different to educate the American public and to ensure that there are ways to see that this never happens again. However, as you noted from that clip of Merrick Garland, he has noted publicly he will be watching, all of the hearings, if not DVRing them, and his prosecutors are as well. And so, it hasn't been a secret that one of the goals, the aims of the January 6th hearings are to sort of inform not only the public, but the Department of Justice about potential crimes that have been committed. There has been some daylight between the committee and the DOJ thus far. The criminal referral element is really a red herring. Merrick Garland doesn't need a slip of paper or a letter, a criminal referral to move forward with a prosecution. He and his prosecutors will be, looking at all of the evidence and deciding whether or not they feel that they have enough to bring an indictment on a range of charges.
And Caroline, I wonder sort of what's your assessment in that regard, based on what we've heard from some of Trump's inner circle, what was just added yesterday? I mean, did they achieve this goal of theirs that's to make a case to the public that the former president was actively and knowingly spreading lies about the election that then led to that breach of the Capitol? What do you think of what we've seen so far?
Yeah, well, remember, we're only, at part 2 of a 2-step process. Last week, the hearings really focused on the seditious conspiracy aspect of any potential crime, the Oath Keepers, the Proud Boys, what took place on the ground during the insurrection. And they promised, they made big promises in terms of tying President Trump, the highest levels of government, to that seditious conspiracy. Yesterday, we heard more about this bigger conspiracy to defraud the United States. And so as you saw and rolled clips earlier, Bill Barr was really sort of the star witness of yesterday, even though it was taped deposition testimony, he wasn't there live. But I'd say Bill Barr, Bill Stepien, these types of people in the highest levels around Trump's orbit on the night of the election, all without fail, telling the president that he had effectively lost the election, or at least that he couldn't claim that he had won it. Nonetheless, President Trump really, going in a different direction, were Bill Stepien's words, the Rudy Giuliani, Sidney Powell direction of simply claiming he had won a victory, which, by the way, he had primed the American public and his followers. He had said that previously. It wasn't a secret. He had said that if he lost this election, the only way he could lose this election was through fraud.
Of course. Caroline Polisi, thank you so much. Always great to have you with us. And now the third January 6th hearing is set for tomorrow. You can watch it right here on NBC News Now. Our live coverage gets underway at 9:30 a.m. Eastern.
It was another day of red arrows on Wall Street. The Dow dropped nearly 900 points as the Federal Reserve prepares to raise interest rates again this week. The Fed is under intense pressure after we learned last week that inflation is still not slowing down, with gas prices well over $5 a gallon in many states. Many Americans are now being forced to rework the family budget. Here's NBC News correspondent Tom Costello.
Gloom and red arrows on Wall Street today as sky-high inflation and a potential recession weigh heavily on investors. After being down 1,000 points, the Dow closed down 876 today, now down 16% for the year. The tech and biotech-heavy NASDAQ down 30% year-to-date. And the broader S&P index, common in Americans' portfolios, sliding into bear market territory, down 21% year-to-date. All of it real money for Americans saving for their retirement, college savings, or a new home.
The two things you can control, even in a market like this, is how much you save and how much you spend. And it's really important to stay on track.
To tame 40-year high inflation, the Federal Reserve is expected to raise interest rates again on Wednesday, perhaps by another 0.75 of a point.
The Fed has to worry about whether or not it can stick to those game plans and whether or not Wall Street will believe them down the line. That's why Fed credibility, so to speak, is so key right now.
It comes as inflation is forcing Americans to adjust their spending. From Los Angeles,
road trips, there's no way. It's just ridiculous. It's cheaper to fly.
To Boston.
It feels like you can't catch a break almost.
Where Sophia Lee is parking the car, riding her bike to work, and even babysitting to offset skyrocketing gas and food prices.
It's just difficult to save up for the things that I do need in the long term.
An economy, a country increasingly on edge. Meanwhile, Bitcoin, the biggest cryptocurrency, is down 66% from its highs in November. Increasingly, these stocks are trading with the stock market and the economic concerns, so this slide has cost a lot of investors a lot of money. Back to you.
Tom Costello, thank you for that report.
Kristen Myers, editor-in-chief of TheBalance.com, joins us now. Kristen, great to have you with us because I know a report like that can be anxiety-inducing. So walk us through it. Give us some tips here. Let's start with, so Wall Street seeing these losses all around. I first want to recap those numbers we just heard. The Dow down 16% for the year. The NASDAQ down 30% to date. S&P 500 actually slid into bear territory, down 21% this year. Tell us first, which stocks are taking the biggest hits here?
It almost would be easier to talk about what stocks are not actually taking some of the biggest losses. But right now we are seeing some of those high growth tech names that, of course, have really been popular over the last couple of years. So even just looking at a heat map from yesterday, we're talking Apple, that's Facebook, Tesla, Amazon, Microsoft, Google, for example, are some of those stocks that have really been taking a huge hit. And then just over the last couple of days, just even yesterday, consumer staples. So think of Procter & Gamble, for example, Walmart, Costco, some of those retailers, they've also really been taking it hard.
All eyes, of course, are on the Federal Reserve this week. It's already expected to raise interest rates at its meeting Wednesday to try to control inflation. How high might that rate hike be? But then also, how might the markets react to that? And does what we saw yesterday with just how bad things got have any impact here on that decision?
Yeah, so the Federal Reserve loves to say, hey, we're not here to really juice the markets. They have a mandate, and that is really to get inflation to 2%. And just for reference, to remind everyone, we're at 8.6%. Yeah. So we are a long way off. So those Friday figures that we saw from inflation are really going to put a lot of the pressure on the Fed to really come out tomorrow and be aggressive. At first, it was that we were going to see 0.5 percentage point, so 50 basis points tomorrow. Now investors are saying, actually, we might have 0.75 of a percentage. So that's 75 basis points out of tomorrow's meeting. The Fed has essentially said, listen, until we get inflation down, and unfortunately it spiked last month, we are going to get aggressive now when it comes to the rate hikes. I think investors are anticipating the Fed to do this, but we could see some choppiness and a little bit of volatility once they come out and make that decision tomorrow.
All right, Kristen Myers, thank you so much. Great to have you on.
Those economic concerns, along with debunked theories of election fraud, are top of mind today as voters in 4 states head to the polls. It's the first set of primary elections since the January 6th hearings began. NBC News senior political editor Mark Murray is with us to break down some of the key races today. Mark, good to have you with us this morning. Let's start with Nevada and the Republican Senate race. We have the former Nevada Attorney General Adam Laxalt, who chaired Trump's reelection campaign in that state. He's up against businessman and veteran Sam Brown. They're looking to unseat the Democrat, the incumbent, Catherine Cortez Masto, who's considered one of the more vulnerable incumbents this cycle. So what should we know about that one?
This is a race, Joe, where Adam Laxalt is the favorite. He has Donald Trump's endorsement, and many people around Trump orbit have been campaigning heavily for him. However, the polls have gotten a little bit closer, with Sam Brown running as the outsider in this race, talking about being a veteran who was wounded in Afghanistan. The expectation still is that Laxalt will win, setting up, as you mentioned, one of the key Senate contests that we're going to end up seeing with Democrats certainly having the political headwinds in their face, and Catherine Cortez Masto facing a potentially really tough bid for re-election.
And the Nevada governor's race also features a vulnerable Democratic incumbent, Steve Sisolak. He's running unopposed in the Democratic primary. That certainly won't be the case come this November. So what should we know about the GOP primary and who he might face?
Again, the front runner is the Trump-endorsed Clark County Sheriff Joe Lombardo. He's running against kind of a wide field of candidates that also ends up including the state's former Republican United States Senator Dean Heller. And again, Lombardo seems to have united a lot of factions in Trump world, as well as the Republican Party. We'll see what the returns are. But as you again mentioned, this is going to be a gubernatorial race in a battleground state like Nevada that we're all going to be watching in November.
And let's also talk about South Carolina. You've got two Republican representatives who've actually been critical of Trump, so they're facing primary challengers. What are you watching for there?
Yeah, these are my favorite races of the day, Joe. And as you ended up mentioning, this comes on the heels of the two recent January 6th committee hearings that we ended up getting. And in both cases, you end up having Donald Trump endorsing a primary challenger of Republican Congressman Tom Rice, who voted for Donald Trump's impeachment after the January 6th attack. And we've also seen Donald Trump oppose incumbent Republican Nancy Mace, who she did not vote for impeachment, but she was very critical of Donald Trump right after January 6th. And she ended up saying that the election was certified and everything should be going forward. And Donald Trump has disagreed, and he has supported Katie Arrington, who ended up losing this race in a general election in 2018. And so this is kind of these two races represent Donald Trump's revenge tour. And we'll see if he actually gets revenge, especially after the January 6th hearings.
Mark Murray says you should watch those races, then you should watch those races. Mark, thanks so much for joining us this morning. We appreciate it. Now, millions of people around the country are certainly feeling the heat this morning. A blast of summer weather coast to coast is shattering some longtime records.
Yeah, some parts of the country are also dealing with severe weather. That's particularly true in the Midwest, which is where we find our friend NBC News' Kathy Park. She is in Chicago with the latest for us. Hey, Kathy, good morning. So, I mean, it was an active weather day yesterday there in the Windy City and surrounding areas. First, just tell us what happened and give us a sense of how things are looking there today. Looks okay so far, but just in your shot.
Yeah, it's not too bad, right, Savannah? Good morning to both of you guys. So the tornado alerts were triggered right around rush hour, and then shortly after that, we heard the tornado sirens blaring in the downtown area. And almost right on cue, we saw the heavy showers, the thunder, the lightning, and the extreme wind gusts. In fact, O'Hare International Airport had to ground their flights for quite some time because at one point, the wind gusts were clocking in at 84 miles per hour. So some travelers had to move away from the windows and find shelter, quite frankly, rather than going to their gates. But we are here in the Bellwood neighborhood, the suburbs outside of Chicago. And as you mentioned, Savannah, you can't see a whole lot of damage from this vantage point. But when you take a look at these aerial images, it's a much different story. The fierce winds literally peeled back the roof of this three-story apartment building. Residents, as you can imagine, were sent scrambling. Several families are displaced this morning, but fortunately, no one was hurt.
And Kathy, it's not just Chicago. I mean, where else are we seeing a lot of activity?
Yeah, so right around the same time, Chicago got slammed with these severe storms. Parts of Ohio did as well. And Cincinnati, they are waking up to a lot of downed trees and power lines. In fact, at last check, tens of thousands of customers are still without power this morning, which is a really bad situation to be in, considering how hot it's going to be for the rest of the week.
Yeah, Kathy, super hot. What are people doing to deal with that heat?
Yeah, I want to tell you how hot it's going to be here in Chicago. So when you factor in the humidity, it's going to feel like 109 degrees here in Chicago. St. Louis, it's going to be the same thing. Even parts of North Carolina, Charlotte, North Carolina could hit the century mark as well. So we could be seeing a whole lot of records over the next 2 days. But we had a chance to talk to some families at a splash pad yesterday, and here's how they are trying to stay cool. Take a listen.
The longer you stay, the more uncomfortable it may become for some, especially for those who can't withstand this type of heat. But I think that the closer that you get to bodies of water, I'm glad that the children are out here playing right now, but that sort of helps relieve a little bit of it.
I've been here for a long time, grew up in Illinois, and you never know what you're going to get in June, right?
Well, you just deal with it. You know, turn on the air conditioning. I mean, who hasn't had to deal with the weather, you know? You know, now it's getting hotter here. The winters are milder.
And because of this extreme heat, some schools in Milwaukee and Minneapolis plan on going to virtual learning today, and even some students will be dismissed early as well. Guys, back to you.
Right. Just deal with it.
I was just going to repeat the same thing. Also, Kathy, you went to the smart place, the splash pad for the heat. Thanks so much. See you soon. Stay cool.
Thanks for watching our YouTube channel. Follow today's top stories and breaking news by downloading the NBC News app.